Okay, so if you open up a search engine right now, I mean, literally, you can do it while you're listening, and just type in carrot cake recipe, you are going to get millions of hits. And here's the funny thing, every single one of them, I mean, without fail, claims to be the best ever.
It's easily the most crowded competitive category in home baking, I swear. Everyone has a grandmother, an aunt, or a neighbor who supposedly holds the secret to the holy grail version.
And honestly, it is so overwhelming. You've got world's best, ultimate to die for. It's just analysis paralysis. So for this deep dive, we decided to ignore the adjectives and just focus on the architecture. We grabbed a stack of the highest rated recipes on the internet. We're talking heavy hitters like Cooking Classy, Mel's Kitchen Cafe, Butternut Bakery.
The science-heavy sugarology, of course.
Yes, them and Cooking Nook and some of those community legends from food.com.
Right. And our mission here wasn't just to bake 6 cakes and see which one we, liked best. Taste is so subjective. We wanted to look under the hood. We wanted to analyze the chemistry and the engineering differences between these recipes to figure out how to build the theoretical, scientifically ultimate carrot cake.
Because even though they all end up orange and covered in cream cheese, the engines driving these things are completely different.
Wildly different, yeah. We found distinct schools of thought on fat ratios, hydration methods, spice chemistry, and even how the carrots themselves are treated.
So I've got my fork ready. Where do we even begin with deconstructing this thing?
We have to start with the moisture matrix. It's the #1 fear people have with carrot cake. That you do all this work, you grate all these vegetables, and you pull a dry brick out of the oven.
A dry cake is a crime. But usually when I bake a cake, I reach for butter. It's all about flavor, right? You want that rich dairy taste.
For flavor, butter wins, hands down. But structurally, this leads us to the great fat debate. Butternut Bakery makes a very compelling, very scientific argument for abandoning butter entirely in favor of oil.
Abandoning butter, that feels sacrilegious.
I know, but hear them out. They point out that oil is 100% fat. Butter is generally only about 80% fat. The rest is water and milk solids.
Okay, but logically, doesn't water add moisture? Shouldn't the water in the butter, help?
In the short term, yes. But think about what happens in a 350-degree oven. That water in the butter evaporates as steam. Oil doesn't evaporate. So chemically, an oil-based cake is coated in pure liquid fat that stays liquid at room temperature. It encapsulates the flour particles more thoroughly.
And what does that encapsulation actually do?
It inhibits gluten formation. So when flour hits water, it creates gluten, which is chewy. By coating the flour in oil, you shorten those gluten strands. You get a really tender crumb. And because the oil doesn't solidify when the cake cools down, like butter does, that feeling of moistness lasts for days. Butternut Bakery is adamant. If you want that classic, moist, dense carrot cake texture, you need oil.
But here's my issue. Oil has no flavor, or worse, it has that greasy mouthfeel. If I eat a muffin made with too much oil, I can feel it on the roof of my mouth. It feels cheap.
That is the trade-off. And that is where sugarology comes in with a really fascinating compromise. They argue that an all-oil cake is actually too dense. It's just heavy.
It's a gut bomb.
Right. So sugarology uses a hybrid approach. They use the creaming method, beating butter and sugar together first.
That's to get air into the batter, right?
Yes. The sharp sugar crystals cut little air pockets into the solid butter. That gives you lift and a lighter, fluffier structure that oil just can't provide. But then later in the mixing process, they drizzle in oil to lock in that long-term moisture.
The best of both worlds. So you get the butter flavor and aeration plus the oil for longevity. I like that. But looking at Mel's Kitchen Cafe, she's tackling that grease factor you mentioned from a totally different angle.
She is. She swaps a portion of the oil for unsweetened applesauce.
Okay, I have to stop you there. Applesauce in baking always feels very, 1990s diet culture to me. Like we're trying to trick ourselves into thinking it's healthy.
I get that. I totally do. But in this context, it's brilliant chemistry, not just a calorie hack. Apples contain pectin.
Pectin. That's the stuff that makes jam set.
Correct. It's a hydrocolloid, which is just a fancy way of saying it loves to hold on to water. So when you use applesauce, you are adding water that is trapped in a gel network. It provides moisture retention without adding the heaviness or the slickness of pure fat.
So it mimics the mouthfeel of fat without the actual grease.
Precisely. Mills recommends a mix 1 cup of oil to a ½ cup of applesauce. She found that ratio keeps the cake moist but light.
And Butternut Bakery suggests another secret liquid that I see popping up a lot in modern baking, Greek yogurt.
Or sour cream, yeah. They play a similar role to the applesauce, but with an added bonus, protein and acidity.
Why does the acidity matter in a cake? I know we talk about acid in cooking to balance salt, but in baking.
It's a tenderizer. Acid breaks down gluten strands, so you get a softer crumb. Plus, the thickness of the yogurt keeps the batter substantial. You've just added water or milk, the batter might get too thin, and your carrots would just sink to the bottom.
The dreaded sunken vegetable layer. Oh, I've been there.
Exactly. The yogurt suspends everything.
Now, speaking of suspending things in batter, we have to address the elephant in the room. Or maybe the fruit in the room. Pineapple.
The pineapple controversy. This is where friendships end.
People have very, very strong feelings about this. I saw on food.com, there's a recipe from a user named Leslie O and another from chef hashtag 165326, classic internet handles.
Of course.
And they both swear by crushed pineapple. They say it's the secret to moisture.
And scientifically, they aren't wrong. Pineapple adds a massive amount of moisture and sugar, but it also brings an enzyme to the party called bromelain.
Bromelain, I've heard of that. Doesn't that break down meat?
It's a protease enzyme.
Yeah.
It eats protein. So in small amounts, it tenderizes the flour proteins, making the cake melt in your mouth soft. But if you use too much or let the batter sit too long, it can turn the cake mushy.
And Butternut Bakery explicitly forbids it, right?
They do, but their argument is about flavor purity. They want the carrot flavor to stand alone. They argue that once you add pineapple, you're veering into a hummingbird cake territory. It becomes a tropical spice cake, not necessarily a carrot cake.
I think I'm with butternut on this one. If I order carrot cake, I want to taste the earthy sweetness of the carrot, not a pina colada.
Which brings us to the star of the show, the carrot itself. I feel like this should be the simplest part of the equation. You grate a carrot, you throw it in a bowl.
You would think, but looking at these sources, there is one rule that every single one of them, Cooking Classy, Mel's, Butternut, they all scream this in all caps.
Do not use the pre-shredded bagged carrots.
Never, even if I'm really lazy.
Never, under any circumstances.
Well, it's so convenient.
It is, but think about the surface area. Those carrots have been sitting in a bag, exposed to air, for days. They are dried out, they've oxidized, they're like hard little matchsticks.
So they don't dissolve in the oven.
No, and they don't release moisture into the cake during baking, so you end up with a dry cake. And worse, you get these crunchy, distinct strings of carrot. It feels like you're eating a salad inside a muffin.
Gross. Okay, so hand grating is non-negotiable.
Yes, you need that fresh water content to release into the crumb. Cooking Classy and Mel's both insist on finely shredding them. You want them to just melt into the batter.
But here is where it gets really interesting. We looked at Sugarology, and remember, this is the science-heavy source, and they completely blew my mind with their carrot technique. They aren't just grating carrots.
No, this was the aha moment of the entire stack for me. This changes the game. Sugarology uses carrots in two different ways in the same cake. Application 1 is your standard finely grated raw carrot. Bite application 2 is a caramelized carrot puree.
A puree, like baby food.
Oh, far more sophisticated. They take chopped carrots, toss them with melted butter, salt, and this is the key, baking soda. And they roast them until they're soft and brown, and then they puree them.
Wait, back up. Baking soda, I use that to, scrub my sink or help cookies rise. Why am I putting it on roasting vegetables?
Right, this is a really cool chemistry part. Baking soda is alkaline. It raises the pH of the carrots, and it turns out the Maillard reaction, which is the chemical reaction responsible for browning and flavor complexity.
The Maillard reaction. That's what we talk about with searing a steak or baking bread crusters.
Exactly. It's what creates those complex, toasty, nutty flavors. By roasting the carrots with baking soda, you aren't just steaming them. You're caramelizing them deep down at a chemical level. You're turning that vegetal, raw carrot taste into something rich and sweet, almost like toffee or butterscotch.
That sounds incredible. So you're not just adding texture, you're essentially making a carrot jam.
Yes. And when you mix that orange puree into the batter, two things happen. First, the cake turns this vibrant, natural orange color. But more importantly, it infuses every single crumb with this deep, roasted carrot flavor that you just cannot get from raw shavings alone.
It's like the difference between a boiled onion and a caramelized onion.
Perfectly put. It transforms the vegetable from a texture element into a primary flavor driver.
Okay, I am absolutely trying that next time. But flavor isn't just about the veg. Let's talk about the spice rack. Because a carrot cake without spice is just sweet vegetable bread.
True. Cinnamon is the non-negotiable base. Everyone has it. But the nuance, the thing that makes you go, ooh, what is that, comes from the supporting cast.
Cooking Classy adds ginger and nutmeg, which feels very holiday to me.
It works, though. Ginger adds heat. It hits the back of the throat and cuts through the density of the sugar. And nutmeg adds that earthy aroma that pairs really well with the cream cheese.
Butternut Bakery adds clove.
Now, clove is dangerous. You have to be very careful with clove.
Why is that?
It contains a compound called eugenol, which is actually a mild anesthetic. If you use too much, it can literally numb your mouth. But in small amounts, it provides this deep, almost savory base note that cinnamon alone just can't achieve.
And Sugarology adds allspice,
which sort of bridges the gap between the cinnamon and the clove. It's a berry that tastes like a mix of all of them.
I noticed a pattern with the sugar itself, too. The heavy hitters, Mel's and Butternut, specifically use a blend of granulated white sugar and brown sugar. Why not just one or the other?
It connects back to the chemistry we were talking about. Brown sugar contains molasses. Molasses is acidic.
Acidic, again with the acid.
Yes. And remember, most carrot cakes use baking soda as a leavener. Baking soda needs an acid to react with to create bubbles carbon dioxide, which makes the cake rise. So the brown sugar isn't just for that caramel taste, it's actually fueling the lift of the cake.
And doesn't brown sugar hold moisture better?
It does. It's hygroscopic.
Hygroscopic, great word.
It means it attracts and holds water molecules from the air. So Using brown sugar is essentially another layer of insurance against a dry cake.
It seems like every single decision these top-tier bakers make is about moisture insurance.
When you're baking a dense cake that cooks for 40 to 50 minutes, you need all the insurance you can get.
Okay, let's move to the roof of the house, the frosting. Because let's be honest, for 50% of the population, the cake is just a delivery vehicle for the cream cheese frosting.
It's the gold standard for a reason. The tang of the cream cheese cuts the spice and the earthiness of the cake. But there are two big problems with cream cheese frosting that frustrate home bakers. It's often tooth-achingly sweet, and it's notoriously unstable.
Unstable as in it melts.
It gets gloopy. It turns into a puddle. If the room is warm or if you beat it for 10 seconds too long, the structure just collapses. It doesn't hold crisp piping lines like a buttercream does.
So how do we fix the sweetness first?
Mel's Kitchen Cafe has a fantastic, simple hack for this. She insists on adding a tiny bit of sour cream to the frosting itself.
Sour cream in the frosting.
Just a tablespoon. It amplifies the tanginess without loosening the mixture too much. It cuts that straight sugar taste. It makes it feel a bit more sophisticated.
Cooking Nook, specifically Linda's recipe, suggests orange juice for a similar reason.
Same principle, different acid. The citrus lift pairs beautifully with the ginger in the cake. But Cooking Book also makes a practical point. Most recipes make way too much frosting. She actually recommends having the batch, unless you want a mountain of icing.
I don't know if I agree with too much frosting as a concept. I'm a frosting person, but I hear her. Now, what about the gloopy factor? How do we make it stiff enough to actually look nice?
This is where sugarology comes back with the heavy science. They created something called buttercream cheese frosting.
Is that just mixing buttercream and cream cheese?
It's more technical. They identify the root of the problem. Cream cheese has a lot of water content. Water dissolves sugar, creating syrup. Syrup is runny. That's why your frosting melts. The sugar is dissolving into the cheese.
So how do they stop that?
They add two special ingredients, dried milk powder and dried egg white powder, also known as meringue powder.
That sounds like we're building a skyscraper, not a cake.
In a way, we are. The milk powder hydrates by soaking up that excess free water from the cream cheese, which thickens the mixture instantly. The egg white powder adds a protein scaffold,
And the result?
a frosting that tastes like pure, tangy cream cheese, but pipes, and holds its shape like a stiff American buttercream. You can transport it, you can pipe sharp rosettes with it, and it won't slide off the cake even if the room gets a little warm.
That is a game changer for anyone who has ever opened a cake box at a party to find a sad, melted disaster.
Absolutely. It solves the biggest mechanical failure of carrot cake.
So Butternut Bakery takes advantage of a stable frosting to do some really cute decoration.
Yes, instead of the classic marzipan carrots, which, let's be honest, nobody really likes eating, they suggest using gel food coloring to dye the frosting itself, orange and green, and piping realistic carrots right onto the cake.
And Cooking Classy goes for the texture contrast.
Pressing chopped pecans into the sides. It's a classic move, but it serves a purpose. It gives you a crunchy barrier and a textural contrast against the soft cake and the smooth frosting.
Okay, we've analyzed the moisture, the carrots, the flavor, the frosting. It is time to play Dr. Frankenstein. If we were to build the ultimate carrot cake based on this stack, what does it look like?
This is where it's fun. I think for the batter, you have to use Sugarology's roasted carrot puree technique. That flavor depth from the baking soda roast is just unmatched. It's a tier above everything else.
Agreed. But what about the fat?
I would combine that puree with Mel's Kitchen Cafe's liquid strategy, using the oil and applesauce blend. That way you get the moisture of the oil, the water retention of the pectin, but you avoid the heaviness that might weigh down the puree.
I like that. And for the sugar?
Definitely the brown and white sugar mix from Butternut or Mel's to get that acidic reaction for the lift. And I'd lean towards Cooking Classy's spice blend. I think ginger and nutmeg are essential for that warm feeling.
And the frosting.
It depends on the context.
Yeah.
If you are serving it at home, straight from the kitchen counter, Mel's sour cream-infused frosting for the superior flavor profile. But if you are taking this cake to a party, a potluck, or anywhere where it has to sit out, you have to use Sugarology's stabilized version with the milk powder. You need that structural integrity.
And absolutely no pineapple.
I'm siding with Butternut on this one. Leave the pineapple for the cocktails. Let the roasted carrots be the star.
So what does this all mean for the home baker? Because this sounds like a lot of work compared to just dumping ingredients in a bowl.
It illustrates that baking isn't just following a list of ingredients, it's chemistry. When you understand why you're roasting the carrots with baking soda, or why brown sugar keeps a cake moist, you stop guessing.
It empowers you.
Exactly. You realize that small tweaks, like a tablespoon of sour cream or a pinch of baking soda, can drastically change the result from good to unforgettable. You stop being a recipe follower and start being a recipe engineer.
That leads me to my final thought. If roasting carrots with baking soda transforms them into this caramelized, toasty flavor bomb, What else are we sleeping on?
That is the provocative question.
Could you do this with parsnips? Could you do it with sweet potatoes? Are we eating bland vegetable desserts just because we haven't applied Maillard reaction properly?
I honestly think a caramelized parsnip cake with a ginger cream cheese frosting could be the next big thing. The flavor profile is right there.
You heard it here first. Get your baking soda ready, folks. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Happy baking.
See you next time.